So a really good friend of mine who does consulting for media, like, would send me polls. And the polls were about, Black Americans and how they feel about policing and what they want. Do they want to defund policing? Do they want to keep the funding levels the same? Do they want to increase policing? And I was shocked. Poll after poll indicated, no, they don't want to cut funding for policing. In fact, the problem they have with policing is that they don't feel that the police force in their community is doing enough to keep them safe in their communities, which is very similar to what was happening in the 1990s. Like, if you go back and watch local news reports out of LA, for instance, in the 1990s, one of the biggest complaints from, people living in, at the time it was South Central, now it's considered South LA, one of the biggest complaints was, we don't see enough police keeping our communities safe. And so the data is the data. You can't manipulate hard facts. And for me, when I signed on to criminal justice reform, what I thought I was signing on to was, we're going to reform our prisons. Our prisons shouldn't be torturing people. Prison rape shouldn't just be accepted, right? I want this to be more than just punitive. I want to rehabilitate people. I want to have a situation in which they pay the price for their crime, but they're also being rehabilitated so that when they get out, they're able to be productive members of society. We didn't actually do much of that in California. There's one prison that's been reformed, and it's actually showing really great results, and I hope that spreads. But the idea of, we're just not going to punish anyone for pretty much anything is not what I thought I was signing up for. But that's pretty much what we've gotten. And preemptively shutting down, 4 to 5 state prisons without really having a plan in place for what happens to oftentimes, like, violent inmates was a disastrous idea by Gavin Newsom, to be honest.
I mean, the bizarre, just this bizarre obsession with putting women, rather men, or at least people with penises.
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble. You're going to get me in trouble, Bill. You're going to get me in trouble.
Why? There's no trouble for
because
you. Your life is trouble.
I'm supposed to be totally okay with it.
There's no supposed to be. First of all...
Is it bad that I don't want to see a dick in the women's locker room? Is that bad?
No. No.
I just don't. I don't want to see a cock in the women's locker room.
And you shouldn't. And no woman should. I mean, this is basic 101. And this is, again, to my point about, like, if I just listed, and I could do it for a long time, the things that they do because they're so tripped up by their own orthodox ideology that they think that makes them a better person, to be so counterintuitive about all these issues like this, that this makes them the good people, that they're way out ahead on this issue. And you're not. And it's not what people want, and it goes against human nature, and it's not helping. You didn't, you want to champion women, and you didn't. You did the opposite.
I know, because there's the hierarchy.
You made them uncomfortable,
no,
and
100%,
unnecessarily.
100%. Look,
in many ways.
When you see everything as a hierarchy, literally everything's a hierarchy, well then, inevitably, you're going to find yourself in a situation where the rights of one group kind of falls by the wayside.
Right. It's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. And I don't see it that way. I respect transgender people. I do not want to treat them like the others. I want them to have rights. I want them to be treated with dignity and respect.
Exactly.
At the same time, I also know what it's like to be a woman living in a state where we've decided self-ID makes the most sense. Okay, well, self-ID doesn't make the most sense.
No.
Because obviously, as you and I both know, there are all sorts of predators out there who are going to take advantage of that situation, and that's already happened. Right, so there was that big We Spa story, and it turned out that the so-called transgender woman who was allowed into the women's locker room at a Korean spa in downtown LA was not actually a transgender person, was a person who had a long record of, sexual exploitation and assault or whatever, pretended to be transgender, gets into the women's locker room, and I felt so bad because I bought the cover story when it was first reported, but I was wrong to buy it. I should have asked more questions. And that poor woman, she happened to be a Black woman who was complaining at the front desk of We Spa. She was dragged through the mud when in reality, she witnessed this person fondling themselves in the women's locker room. Now, this person is not transgender. This is not an indictment of transgender people. It's an indictment of a policy that was not thought through. And as a result, there are women who are going to suffer. And as a result, there are transgender people who are going to suffer because people are going to make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, that guy was transgender and this is how they behave. No, this is not how they behave. We need to be smarter about these policies. It's that simple.
It's so good to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Really good. I did not expect that.
Really?
Well, in general, you're a lot more reasonable than I thought you would. The fire breathers, are always trying to.
I mean, if we start talking about Gaza, I think you're going to disagree with me probably. That's probably where we have the most disagreement. But in terms of the transgender issue.
Well, then maybe later. Maybe later. Because I will definitely carve you into little pieces on that one.
I don't know about that, Bill.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
But on this one, first of all, good for you for saying that. I say it all the time. It's no shame to say, "Oh, I believe the cover story."
Yeah, I do.
Because the cover story just means that everybody has their own narrative. Nobody pursues the truth on either side. You have to work really hard.
Yes.
But since it's my job, I do, to get the full story. Nobody ever prints if you read the New York Times and the New York Post, it's like these two, it's just funny to do it. Because it's like, oh, I see what you left out. Oh, I see what you
totally.
I see
I love
what you
doing
left
that.
out. It's not that either one of you. Oh, of course, they both lie to a degree, and the New York Post is sometimes just flat out funny in how they do it. But
they omit.
They just omit.
Yes.
And but like you sound like, and I say this as a compliment, J.K. Rowling, because this is her thing. And I don't know if you saw her take apart Emma Watson.
No, I didn't see that.
There's something that was not reported in the New York Times that I saw. Like we don't see that. We don't notice this. This is not worthy of comment, and it so fucking was. And of course, in the New York Post, they loved it because J.K. Rowling, brilliant J.K. Rowling. I mean, not that I've ever read Harry Potter. To me, it's a children's book, but maybe someday.
Same, yeah.
I'm right there with
you.
A great one, I'm sure. Got kids reading. But I just love her because, she just says it. And she finally had enough of Emma Watson, who is, super woke and, one of the useful idiots, also on things like Gaza. And so, which tells you something that her views on Gaza were just as crazy, I think, as her views on, on the women thing. And, J.K. Rowling was just unmerciful. She was like, well, this is not an issue for you because when you go into a public bathroom, you have a bodyguard who stands outside the door, And she talked about how, when I was your age, I didn't have all this privilege that you're always so hateful. I was home working on the book that made you a star. It was, she just wasn't having it anymore.
Yeah.